Begin when you are, Ward.
All righty. Hey, good evening, everybody. Here's another webinar presented by the Kansas School Board Resource Center. And our webinars are not usually, they are on the fourth Wednesday of each month from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. The webinars are recorded and they can be viewed on our website, ksbrc.org. And the website also has a wealth of information, all the Kansas State assessment results for each school district, USD's financial information, videos, policies that can be copied and used by any school district. And just a brief update, the Kansas School Board Resource Center, we began in December of 2023. It's hard to believe it's been over a year. And we developed it to meet the glowing need for improving student achievement. It's hard to imagine that only 30% of third graders are at grade level in math and reading. The center is student-driven. All statistics come directly from the Kansas State Department of Education. And the most important thing for all, the center is free. It's a resource open to all Kansas School Board members, and we charge no fees for our services, thanks to many very generous donors. And why did we believe such an organization was necessary? Throughout the United States, there have been countless organizations started to fight for students' basic educational development. If you've been paying attention, you can name many of them. But the bottom line is we keep repeating things the way we've always done them. That is definitely the definition of insanity, and we are needing some change. The KSB, we partnered with the National School Board, which is excellent. It was really interesting. A lot of people don't know. The National School Board for Academic Excellence has school board resource centers throughout the country. In the last week, I visited several states who are trying to develop one of their own. And the same reason, they need to find ways to improve student achievement. We're really lucky to be one of the National School Board members, original board members. There's three of us, California, North Carolina, and good old Kansas. And it's hard to believe that most successful schools in Kansas in the United States are districts that put student achievement first, and that the Board of Education plays an active part in working with the administration and staff to develop successful practices. The school we have been featuring tonight certainly does that. A comment many of us make: you cannot have a good school without a strong character development program. And addressing that, a problem facing most schools in the Kansas and the United States is finding good teachers. You know, and it might be surprising to some of you, but in many surveys, administrative support and involvement is higher on the teacher priority list than their salary. Schools that have strong character development program are schools where teachers want to teach. And tonight's program featuring the Wabaunsee School District is an example of a district that has teachers not leaving, and when they have teaching openings, they have people that want to apply. There are many problems when a school is short-staffed, or even worse, hires a teacher that's not ready. Talk to people today. There are elementary teachers being hired that are not even asked about their ability to teach reading and math. Just are you warm? We certainly should be questioning whether they have those abilities and what their training is. A way that we get around that in our institution is using the building needs assessment. If you're in that position, we can look at those resources and find a way to use school district resources to improve student achievement. And my last comments before introducing tonight's panelists are concerned many people are changing or sharing. Have kids changed? And kids have not changed, but the world around them certainly has. We have more single parent families, cell phones, social media, gender identification, diversity, equity, inclusion, the pandemic. The list goes on, and we wonder why our kids might be stressed and maybe why we need to do things to help them. I spent 20 years as a building principal, and I always shared my dad's advice every year in most speeches I gave. Shake hands firmly, smile and say hello, and treat others the way you want to be treated. Who's telling the kids that today? In Wabaunsee, character development teachers like Sarah Eckstein, Jordan Dunn, that we're featuring tonight. The program is not a once-a-month assembly or a poster or bulletin boards. It's a daily effort to promote good kids. So with that, I'll turn the program over to Sarah and Jordan. And a big thank you to the Wabaunsee Superintendent, Troy Pitch, for his leadership. Tracy Frederick on the screen, our Director of Engagement and Strategy, will close out tonight's program. And if time allows, we'll coordinate any questions that arise. I want to thank you all for attending. It's amazing. Our attendance seems to be growing every month. And if you have any ideas for programs, email Tracy or myself. Thank you for listening and your School District. I'm done. Good luck, Sarah and Jordan.
Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, thank you for sharing this slide. My name is Sarah Eckstein. I'm the mental health liaison for Wabaunsee School District.
And I'm Jordan Dunn. I am the pre-K through 8th grade school counselor for the district.
Okay, you can go in advance to the next slide. Okay. Oh. Okay.
One moment.
Sure. Okay, that's okay. I'll go ahead and share. As it was mentioned earlier, we presented in November, and it was a team of us. So I wanted to give recognition that there were other people involved in preparing this presentation, because it is a team approach when it comes to social emotional learning or character development. Our first grade teacher, Mrs. Gronquist, she'll be highlighted in a couple of videos that we'll share throughout. And then our high school counselor,
Callie
Meinhardt, and then Jordan and I, we're here. So before, and Dr. Pitch. So before we get into the actual curriculum that we use, we wanted to highlight what our school district looks like, because it's very unique in a lot of aspects. Here you'll see our enrollment demographics. We are mostly white, Hispanic, and then 2 or more races is 5.3%. We have a pretty large percentage of students on free or reduced price lunch, which is over 20% of our students. You can advance to the next slide. Our attendance rate is much higher than the state average, as you can kind of see there, and it's kind of gone up over the last couple of years, which is pretty amazing given the implications that COVID had. So we strive for attendance. We really focus on the ABCs, attendance, behavior, and our curriculum. You can advance to the next slide. Our dropout indicator, since our district is so small, you can have like one dropout and it can really affect the numbers. So, but as you can see in the slide, that it is significantly less than the state average. Next slide. Reviewing our ACT results shows a consistent trend of our students outperforming the state averages. In 2022, our district achieved an average of 21.6, while the state average was 19.8. This pattern holds across multiple years, demonstrating our students' continued commitment to academic success. Next slide. Here's a slide of just comparing different districts and our CAP student performance. It highlights the dedication of our educators and the diligence of our students. In 2023, our district achieved an impressive 44% proficiency rates in ELA, surpassing the state average of 33%. In math, we attained a substantial 50% proficiency rate, which was significantly greater than the state average of 31%. These remarkable achievements directly correlate with our focused implementation of the Leader in Me program, emphasizing the importance of character development and academic achievement. These successes affirm our commitment to providing a holistic and comprehensive educational experience, further enforcing our students' academic success and growth. Next slide, please. While we are proud of our high school graduation rates, what truly sets us apart from student success is beyond graduation. Over the years, we've maintained success rates significantly higher than the state average, indicating that our educational programs, including the Leader in Me, effectively prepares students for life after high school. Our dedication to student success was recognized for our predicted effectiveness above 61% for the 2022 school year. Before delving into the specifics of our approach to social, emotional, and character development and its impact on our district, I'd like to emphasize that while we're proud of our success indicators and the role Leader in Me has played in that, we recognize that student achievement is influenced by a complex interplay of factors, including our unique local context, shared values, and high levels of accountability. We don't claim a one-size-fits-all solution, nor do we presume to offer a silver bullet for our school improvement. Instead, we're here to share our journey as a case study highlighting how the Leader in Me program, combined with our local environment, has contributed to the students' exceptional outcomes. Okay, so now we're going to turn it over to Jordan. You can go to the next slide. Oh, wait, this not yet. This is just a list of the state social emotional character development standards that that our curriculum meets all these standards. So now you can go to the next slide and we'll turn it over to Jordan.
Okay. Yeah, and you can actually advance this one as well. So the quote here comes from Sean Covey, and that is the creator of Leader in Me, which is based off of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And it's now been made into a curriculum that is K-12 and really beyond. They now have courses that are available for college students, whether that's self-directed or whether that is instructor-led. There are different options for later in life, even after the kids graduate high school. Next slide, please. So the Leader in Me is a social emotional curriculum that we adopted now almost 7 years ago. It's taught pre-K through 12th in our district. What sets it apart from other social emotional curriculums is its focus on creating student mindsets. It focuses on more than just behavior. It highlights the underlying beliefs, thoughts, and feelings of the individual, and then creates a framework for our students to follow throughout their lifespan. These are the 5 core paradigms of Leader in Me. The first one, everyone can be a leader, explains that even students are leaders in their schools, not just adults. So when I go to community learning events, these are really neat because this is where Leader in Me provides us a chance to watch live action what Leader in Me does for schools and for students. I know the first one that I went to, there was a panel of, I think probably 7 or 8 kids, and it was an elementary building in Kansas City, Blue Valley District. And it was phenomenal to see the students talk about Leader in Me and talk about how they were using it in their classrooms, but also how they were using it outside of school, like whether that was in athletics or activities or at home with their family. That's probably one of the more impactful things that Leader in Me has also done, is given us chances to attend events and visit schools and see things in action. So first paradigm, everybody can be a leader. The second one, everyone has genius, highlights other strengths of students, not just academic ability. It asserts that there are many other forms of genius. We just need to help the students find what theirs is. So this is another one that I think is really key, because Kansas was moving in the direction of social emotional learning, and now we're kind of finding that we do still need the academic stuff, and we need to keep a focus on that as well. And I think this is really important because we're also talking about how there's so many avenues for success. It doesn't just have to be a university success or some 4-year program that doesn't fit. And I know that we've been talking about this conversation for a little while now, but I love that Leader in Me has a paradigm that focuses on other ways of showing that you are capable and other ways of showing that you have something to contribute. The third paradigm, change starts with me, identifies real change as occurring within ourselves, helps students to understand that large-scale changes can't occur without changes within the individual person. So our first habit, that you're in charge of you, this is what the habit 1 is all about, teaches us that we are completely in charge of things. And I think that that's really important for our kids to keep in mind, that it's really, if we would like things to be different, we're the ones who have to start with that change. The fourth paradigm, empower students to lead their own learning, explains that students are the pilots of their own success. They are in charge of knowing their strengths, areas for growth, their goals, and their progress. Our high level of accountability in this district, I think, is key for this and really pairs well with this paradigm, because our students know that at the end of the day, it's going to be on them to be the learner, and that we can teach all day long, but you can only lead the horse to water, right? And so this also helps with our relationships with our parents, because at the end of the day, parents aren't going to look at educators, and educators aren't going to look at parents to see where the responsibility lies. We're both going to look at the student and say, where can, little Johnny, where can he do the work? What's missing here? And then how do we support? So making sure that they are the drivers of their learning, that we are there to just facilitate. The fifth paradigm, educators and families partner to develop the whole person, concludes that we are not separate entities in the development of each student. It's a collaborative effort between families and the school. And I would also include the community. I think it's really important that everybody keeps in mind that at the end of the day, our shared goal is that the student becomes the best version of themselves that we can help them to be. So everybody working together to do that is key. And I think something this year that we've all learned is that really being transparent and really being honest while being considerate of one another has been big. So, and I think that that's work on our part, not just work on the students' part. Next slide, please. The 7 habits tree is a visual and tangible representation of the habits themselves. This helps our students to understand how the first 3 habits begin within us, and that the last 4 are dependent upon the successful execution of the first 3. So I love the tree. I'll be honest with everybody, I love the tree. I think this is really key because it helps the kids to understand, usually with the first lesson, I'll have them look out the window and talk about a tree. What does the roots usually do for a tree? And the kids will raise their hands and say things like, give it water, give it food. And so we talk about how a lot of the strength for the tree and how it grows comes from the roots. And so those first 3 habits are really important. And not only that, but it creates a foundation. So the roots not just providing the nutrients for the tree, but also keeping it grounded and talking about how having really key foundational values is really important, and knowing where you stand and who you are. And those first 3 habits are all about that. Then you go to the 4 habits of above, and I'll ask the kids, can you tell if a tree is healthy or unhealthy, even if you can't see its roots? And the kids will say, yeah. And so, ask them why. And they'll talk about dead leaves, or they'll talk about how you can tell if it's growing more or if it's really big. And so we talk about all the things that a tree then provides, oxygen for us to breathe and paper for us to use, and like all sorts of resources, right? Syrup, for example. And so we talk about how it's really important those first 3 habits are in check, so that as we grow in those other 4 habits, that we're able to really give the world the best of ourselves. So next slide, please. This slide provides information about the concepts within each of the 7 habits. It's shared through signage in all of our buildings, referenced by staff and other school adults throughout the day, and then reinforced by consistent use of the language both in and out of school. For example, our food service staff uses habit 2, beginning with the end in mind, when they are preparing to scrape and dump their trays. And our coaches remind their athletes to use habit 6, synergize, when identifying strengths on the team and ways to improve team performance. You can take a look at some of those concepts on the visual that I have up there. And for example, in habit 1, you're in charge of you. One of the biggest pieces of that is what can you control? So when I teach our super flex lessons, which is another curriculum that I've kind of taken bits and pieces from to teach for our kindergarten through 2nd grade classrooms, we talk about how when we start to worry too much, that we have to remember what we can control and then what we cannot control. And then if we can't control it and we still worry, where do we go to get help with that? So Leader in Me is also it's really easy to integrate into other curriculums, into other frameworks, and have it make sense. And it's really applicable. So I've done other curriculums in other districts, and I've liked them, but a lot of what was missing was just, how does it look in real life? Because you can talk about things in theory, and then you go into the real world, and it just doesn't execute the way that you feel like it's going to when you talk about it. But Leader in Me has a lot of things that just kind of cross play into other sectors of life, and it's really easy to use them in that way. Another one that I like to highlight is Think Win-Win. A lot of times when I'm trying to get buy-in from our kids, which is huge, right? We have to get them to want to do what we want them to do. Thinking win-win is really helpful as a way of thinking, like just reminding them that if you are thinking about the win for other people, the likelihood is that you're going to know what they need and know how to persuade better or influence in a better way. And it also helps them to think about things when they're in conflict, which I think is a big piece of, I don't want to say the problem, but I think it really is difficult for our kids to communicate through conflict. I see it every day, especially, with our older elementary kids. And so Leader in Me has a lot of ways of showing you how it can benefit you to resolve conflict, to be honest, and to advocate for yourself, and to be able to stand up for the things that you believe, but to also know how to pick your battles, and at the end of the day, try to see it from a different perspective and gain something from that conflict or that disagreement. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned earlier, the curriculum for Leader in Me program goes from pre-K all the way through college level activities. Depending on the grade level, these lessons are formatted either direct instruction or as self-directed navigation. Our kids at the high school level are using the self-directed navigation. So they're going through the modules that are available online. The curriculum for the elementary has a couple of different formats that you can use. So I have chosen to do the workbook worksheet format, where there are structured activities every week. I do mine, like 1 week is habit 1, and then the next week we do a habit 2 lesson. The next week we do a habit 3 lesson, just so that we can keep a good blend of all of them and talk about them regularly. But they also on Leader in Me online have the option to go through the curriculum elementary, but it's almost like the lesson's already ready to go, and it has lots of other resources and stuff available with it. I've kind of used those a little bit. I think that I'm just so paper pencil, and I really like to do engaging things with the kids and do hands-on activities with them. So that was just not my preference. But there are ways of doing Leader in Me where you're not just doing, workbook activities. They also have all of these supplemental resources and things that we incorporate into other lessons. So lots and lots of resources as far as what you can use, not just classroom lesson wise, but also teaching. I know that they just added a section recently of common problems in classrooms. So a couple of them are shouting out or interrupting blurting. Another one is attendance problems, absenteeism. So they have sections and pockets of things that you can also intervene on if you'd like to on a deeper level. Another example is our trust huddles, which you'll hear more about here in just a little bit. Next slide, please. The Leader in Me program is evidence-based and data-driven. Each year, the Measurable Results Assessment, aka the MRA survey, is given to our students, staff, and families. In order to develop goals that are specific to each level, we have each building take theirs separately. The results of the assessment are used to set the goals, track progress, and make plans for the subsequent year. Specifically, it measures the beliefs and feelings around academics, school culture, and leadership. So we have our MRA data back from this year, and we discovered that especially in our high school and our junior high buildings, that we really needed some more community and family engagement, because there is that piece where we collect information from the families from each building. We also saw that at the junior high level, students didn't really feel very empowered. And so that's going to be a focus for next year as well. So it is so nice to have a program that already has a survey developed, so we know it's valid. But it's also really helpful that it's geared toward all of the stakeholders that are involved. So our families will take it, our staff takes it, and then our kids, 4th grade and up, take it. And so with the opt-in, opt-out laws changing over the last few years, we had a really hard time last year getting the MRA survey results that we were really hoping for as far as the participation. But this year, what we did is that we had our opt-ins done during enrollment, and then we did our surveys before that October mark. So we were able to collect the data within that 4-month window, but we had a much higher, I can't remember exactly what the percentage was, but it was 20% or something higher than last year as far as participation went. So really, really great information comes from the survey that they provide for their staff. Next slide, please. The goal at the elementary level is to teach the framework, language, and concepts associated through direct instruction. We also expect that our students are able to articulate their academic strengths, their areas for growth, their goals, and what they are doing to track the progress that they've set. This information is shared by students every fall during parent-teacher conference. The final goal of the elementary programming is to help students feel that they are active participants in their schools. They are given specific leadership groups of their buildings, such as our Charter Champions and Kindness Crusaders. So a little bit on those two things. Charter Champions is a program that we were doing pre-K through second grade, and we were taking an individual photo of a few kids each month in the classroom. And oh, I'm so sorry. If we advance the next slide, please. Thank you. Sorry, I forgot I had a slide
You can see all
for this.
the amazing kids.
There
we
it
get
is.
to work with.
Yeah. So you can see on the left, every month we had teachers nominate, and I'll be honest with you, our teachers got really busy at some of those times. And so I would kind of nominate the kids, but by using, the Leader in Me lessons time that I had with them to gauge, who could be recognized that month. And it was really fun for our littles, especially because preschool, you don't get your picture taken very often. And at school, it's like new and weird to have an adult come in and ask to take your picture. But then I would tell them, I'm really excited because I get to share, the such and such thing that you've been doing in your classroom really, really well. And so it gets them excited about learning. And I think one of the key pieces of elementary school is to establish the love for school for some reason. I don't care if it's because you love to learn, if it's because you like to socialize, if it's because you feel loved and cared about by the adults in there, that you get to work on things that you like. School should be a place where kids enjoy going. And it doesn't matter whether, it's for whatever reason. Now, are we going to be everybody's favorite place all the time? No, and that's okay too. But I think it's really important that the littles enjoy coming to school on a regular, consistent basis, so that they develop or start to see school as a place where they are better off for whatever reason it might be. And then there's also the picture of one of the lessons that we were doing in the classroom. What's really great about Leader in Me is that it provides all the stuff that you'll need. So everything that you do doesn't have to have like 20 materials added to it in order to implement or to execute. We are able to do it in this little tiny district that when we don't have, a ton of extra resources or a ton of extra stuff, we just we use a lot of what Leader in Me provides and then really work as a team to build upon that. Kindness Crusaders is another one. That's our 3rd through 5th grade leadership group. And they do service projects and stuff around the school. So for example, they did like leaf raking and leaf cleaning in the fall. We've also at one point done birthday celebrations, like door decorating for our teachers and our staff, which was really fun. They love that. Next slide, please. Thanks. Sorry. It's been a little while since we looked at these slides, and I apologize because I had forgotten that I had included a lot of these. Last year we had 2 elementary buildings. This year we've actually combined. So we did close a school in the last year. We closed Maple Hill. And so our elementary kids now are together, and Kindness Crusaders group is very large for what it was before, but it's great because we have committees. And so the kids really have opportunities to take leadership in that way. You can see on the right side, this is when we had the Kindness Crusaders actually do our bully prevention lessons. Historically, I had done them where we talk about the differences between rude, mean, conflict, and then a true bully. But really, really loved having the kids do this over the last couple of years, in part because they get to teach and that makes them feel, really, really good and important and like an important part of their school. But the littles listen to them even more than they listen to us. And so they can also talk afterward about, scenarios and how do those fit into real life situations and stuff. So just a couple of examples of some of the leadership stuff that we've brought out of Leader in Me and just kind of creatively built upon. Next slide, please.
So do you want me to do this?
Yeah,
Okay.
that'd be great.
So this is a picture of Mrs. Gronquist's 1st grade class. One thing that I was just noticing, I'm not in there every day, but it's kind of obvious. There's a lot of boys in this class. So you can imagine the energy level and the excitement. But I think you guys will really enjoy some of the things that you will see. One part of at the elementary level with the Leader in Me curriculum is that we do student-led parent-teacher conferences, which I think sometimes teachers are like, student-led? Like, I just tell the parents what they need to know about their kid. But these are first graders, and Mrs. Gronquist has really done an amazing job of empowering her students to lead their own parent-teacher conference. And so I think it's in the next slide. Okay, keep going. Sorry.
Yep, one more.
And another. I just wanted you guys to be able.
There it goes.
Okay.
Oh,
So
this is
that's
the
not a
morning
video.
affirmation.
Okay. So they also do morning affirmations. And then I think the next one is the actual video of the parent teacher conference. Okay. Do another one. Sorry.
So you are seeing some of the other examples, but this is one of our kids, Mrs. Gronquist student. Him doing his parent. Yeah.
So I think Tracy, do you have the ability to like hit play? No.
Sorry, I don't have a play button on this slide.
Okay. That is okay. I will do my best to summarize it. I won't be as good as the actual video.
Yeah, it's so great.
So this is a very sweet, shy little boy with two amazing, very involved parents that came with him to his parent-teacher conference. And so he was going over his goals, if he met his goals, and what his goals were for next semester. And it was everything. It was reading, math, and behavior. What made this video like so amazing is like halfway through, like if anybody had any doubt that this was staged, halfway through the sister walks by and like sits, but misses her chair and like almost falls over. It was really funny. But so it is possible to do student-led parent-teacher conferences, and it really empowered this little guy, because I know this little guy and he's super shy, and it was amazing to see him kind of shine, like being able to share with his parents all of his accomplishments. So,
and I think Leader in Me frames it so that it's developmentally appropriate. So the things that they are talking about, we're not asking them to share data numbers, but we are asking them to talk about, well, what do you do really well in, and then how can you improve in this other area? So we don't want it to seem as if, we've got little data kiddos running around talking about, their scores, but more so just they have a really good understanding about where they're at in certain areas and knowing the steps that they need to be taking in order to improve if they do need to improve.
Yeah. Okay. You can go to the next slide. Okay. So there's little sister. She had fallen off the chair and then she got back up. Okay. You can go to the next slide. Or big sister. Okay. So at the junior high level, we kind of focus on 4 different activities: student lighthouse teams, service learning, and direct lesson through the curriculum, as well as trust huddles. You can advance to the next slide. So at the junior high level, we really start shifting our focus from direct instruction of the habits to focus on the application and practice and processing the application of those skills. The lighthouse teams, there's 3 different ones: the bulletin board lighthouse team, and community service, and then event and activities. So as Jordan mentioned earlier, the community service, it is amazing to see these 6th through 8th graders get out, rake leaves, like do stuff that we don't typically think that those kids will do these days. And they do it and they have fun. And it's just amazing to see. Yeah. And then event and activity, lighthouse teams. The goal of that lighthouse teams is to put those habits into practice. And then they also practice problem-solving strategies. They discuss on how to synergize. Habit 6, to cooperate and share ideas with one another. The results is that we're all better together. Like, we're not here to kind of work independently. We're here to be a team, a family. And Wabaunsee is a very unique school district in that it's very small, but it involves several different communities. And so it's really awesome to see all those different backgrounds come together and be a family, even though they might live in a different town.
And just to add a little bit to this slide, the lighthouse teams are really key because we're able to give back the work to the kids, and they're able to take those leadership roles and then really own whatever benefits or whatever progress, or, you know, however that, whatever good stuff comes of that. And then the results, it's crazy that we've been able to close now 2 school buildings, because we closed a S6, so fifth and sixth.
Yeah.
We closed a 5-6 building 2 years or 3 years ago, and now closed one of our elementary schools last year. And so really using Leader and Me to talk about some of the more emotional pieces of doing that, but in a positive way. Leader and Me focuses a lot on strengths. And so when we talk about habit 6, Synergize, the first thing that we talk about in that habit is that we all have things to offer, and we all have things that we're really great at. So we're not going to focus on areas that we're not very good at, or the areas that are areas of weakness for us, but we're going to instead focus on strengths and ways to move forward. And I think that that's really been helpful for our district in particular, just during this time. So, and that's just unique to us, but other schools I know also experience things that are really difficult and can kind of jar the climate or the culture of the district as a whole. So,
and we also have Leadership Council, in which students, they have to apply, fill out an application to be on this leadership team, and they even have to interview with school staff. And they practice leadership, decision-making, and plan school events.
One of their favorite things this year to do has been to go serve food at the Open Door, which is our community, what would
Kind
you
of
call
like
it?
seniors.
Yeah, it's like a senior center kind of.
Yeah, meals.
Yeah, they provide meals on a regular basis for the elderly in our community. And so once a month, usually it's the high school kids that get to go do it. But lately our junior high kids have been asked, our leadership council kids have been asked to go step in when they have things going on at the high school and can't do it. So that has been really fun. And we always stop by Sonic on our way home. So that's always been, it's a good time for them. And they get to go out in the community and really be the face, especially in communities like ours. If people aren't out doing the things don't get done. And so our kids really see how there's a sense of ownership and taking care of other people in our community.
Yeah. You can go to the next slide, please. As Jordan mentioned earlier, this is all data driven. At the junior high level, when we got the results back
2 years ago,
2 years ago, it really indicated that there was a lack of sense of belonging with the school family. And so Jordan and I facilitated some trust huddles, which were 15-week student-led groups of 4 to 6 students. The goals included the students to form deeper connections with the trust huddle group, refine the knowledge of trust concepts while working together to review habits and process how to apply habits into their own lives. Students practice public speaking skills, taking turns leading the group, and practice creating and monitoring goals for the group. So they were very successful, I felt like.
You'll see in the pictures that are in the following slides that the kids really took ownership over this, in the sense that each week they were the ones who led them. So if you'll advance the slide, you'll see here that each of these groups, first of all, there's a talking object, which I think was really probably one of the most helpful pieces and tools that Leader and Me provided, was that you're only allowed to talk if you're holding the talking object, which for our junior high kids, I just went to Dollar General and bought like those mini plastic slinkies. And that was, each group had a slinky, and that was their talking object each week. So, and they have an iPad timer. So somebody who keeps track of how long they're able to have the discussions for each of the concepts, so that we stay on time for the class time that we have. And then they do a reflection at the end. But the discussions are led by the students. I would just walk around and kind of listen in and facilitate, and then read through their reflection pages after class was over. These are really great.
Yeah.
You can go to the next slide. I think, a couple more pictures.
So more, these are middle school or junior high kiddos. So.
They went to their high school today for the first time. They're eighth
Yes.
graders now, but they went to the high school today for transition activities and fun
Yes.
things. So,
Which I'm going to talk about actually. So
great, good.
you can go to the next slide. So although at the junior high level, we kind of shift focus, the junior high counselor also continues to review Leader in Me habits with weekly lessons. They include reviewing the habits as well as practicing creating personal WIGs or wildly important goals. Additionally, leadership notebooks are created for each student, which consist of items to contribute to their individual plans of study when they get to high school. Next slide, please. So at the high school, it's self-directed learning modules, service learning, and individual plans of study. Next slide. So the main focus is being able to advocate for themselves. So throughout, from preschool all the way up through 8th grade, there's learning those habits. And now they're taking charge of their learning and choosing their own paths, choosing appropriate classes for their desired post-high school plans, deciding where they want to focus their time. Even though it's a small high school, there's a lot of clubs, sports, activities. And so oftentimes our students are in multiple things and very, very, very busy. So they do have to advocate for their needs. They seek out opportunities, they ask for help when they need it, and they kind of refine and continue to develop self-care strategies and healthy coping skills. You can go to the next slide. So they put it into practice. These are a couple of pictures. We have a partnership with the one of the FACS classes where high school students can come over and help teach at the elementary school because we're just across the street from the high school. And then this top picture is a couple of high school students leading a Yellow Ribbon Club and FCA club meeting. And then they also volunteer a ton of time. They do the community open door, career and community connections. And yeah, they just do a lot. They're very, very busy.
And if I can add to the top picture, the girl on the right, her name is Bailey. She actually attended our county coalition meeting with me earlier this week or last week. Gosh, it feels like it was this week. Last Wednesday. She attended our county coalition meeting with me to talk about our KCTC data, which is the Kansas Communities That Care survey. She actually went with me to share the results of that survey and talk a little bit about how Yellow Ribbon had contributed to some of the progress that we've made in our suicide data in particular. So because that was something that was kind of unique to our district. We've had some loss in our district from suicide. And so that was something about 10 years ago that was really key for our journey. And I don't think that we ever mentioned, I don't think we ever mentioned it in the other presentation, but I think that it's worth noting that this community has really put a lot of effort into caring for people around them. And Leader in Me has really given a framework for kids to learn about how to do that. So and Bailey would have probably been a 6th or 7th grader. Yeah, would have been a 6th or 7th grader when we started Leader in Me as a program here in our district. So just a little bit of extra add in to see kind of how it plays out.
And yeah, that is, I think, one of the reasons why 6 or 7 years ago, it was a priority of the district. I wasn't here at that time, but to really invest in a strong social emotional curriculum. To just kind of piggyback on the community connections, just today, the 8th graders went to the high school and the high school students gave them tours. They answered panel questions. And I was amazed of some of the advice that they gave the 8th graders, get enough sleep, do your homework, stuff that they've heard a million times from their teachers and their parents. But when it's coming from the cool high school football star, I think they listen. We'll see next fall, but yeah. So you can go to the next slide. Thinking win-win. This is an amazing picture. This is at one of the school dances earlier in the year. And it's just a great visual of how connected our students are, even when it comes to when there's a new student. So a new student had moved into the area, which is a little unusual for our district. He was from a bigger city. And no one really knew him that much, but boy, once that music came on, he was like the center of the show and just owned it. And everybody was cheering him on. And so it was really awesome to see. So you can go to the next slide. They're always thinking ahead. They career and college readiness, but again, beginning with the end in mind, one of the habits. They meet regularly with the advisor base and with the counselor. Individual plans of study. They tailor their academic goals to meet what they want to do after high school. They seek opportunities to be informed about post-high school options, and they make connections with staff and other adults to help them gain learning opportunities.
And we couple our Leader in Me program with Zello. So I'm sure that many of you are probably familiar with Zello, or what used to be Career Cruising. But a lot of the stuff that we do, you can pull into the Zello and kind of talk about as you're talking about interests and doing the skills inventories and things like that.
Yeah. So I believe we've made it from pre-K all the way through high school. So I think that is our last slide.
I wish we had an ending slide, like a
Yeah,
thank you slide.
I think there is one more. I think there is. I think there was a thank you slide. Yeah.
Tracy, can you hear us?
I can. I'm so sorry that I just went ahead and stopped the sharing when you said that it was at the end of your slide. So I apologize for that. It was such an interesting presentation. Word at this point, we don't have questions, but perhaps there are some things that came to mind when you were listening that you would like to ask our presenters.
You girls, I've got a couple of questions. Is there one person that is in complete charge of having this program in your school district that just keeps track of everything that's going on?
Yes. I mean, I would say Jordan, and then
Annie, our social worker.
Yeah.
We are the coordinators, yeah, for the program for the district. So
And like, do you get pretty good staff buy-in on this then?
funny you ask.
Mhm.
For the most part, yeah. It's always going to be harder at the high school to get teachers to see that this can also be just as valuable sometimes as, you know, other areas. I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but yeah.
If you really get them in great shape in K through 8, they don't have as many problems in high school.
That's the plan. Yeah.
That's
So
the plan, isn't it?
I think that's kind of how we're seeing this. It's an investment, you know, just like anything else. And yeah, it's an investment. So
are there individual notebooks that go with each kid then, or how does that work?
Great question. So right now, what we've been doing is just printing and making the resources as we need them. However, the last couple of years, we've really talked about getting workbooks, which Leader in Me does provide. So we spoke with our resource rep last week, Dr. Pitch and I did, and we have discussed and gotten a quote for those workbooks, which I think are just going to be much more manageable. So right now the kids have the activities 3-hole punched, which I get them ready sometimes the week of, but most of the time I get most of the lessons ready ahead of the game, and we put those into the binders as we go.
Cool.
So,
and parent teacher conferences, how long do the kids in charge of those?
I think usually they're 15-minute. Like, is that what you mean? Like,
I mean, through 6th grade or 8th grade, or still in high school?
Well, you know,
at the junior high, they do have the kiddos sit in on the conference, but our elementary teachers are really, they really like having the student share that information almost exclusively.
I can see it be more effective really through elementary. Just like if you can read at 3rd grade level, then you can read when you're in 4th grade. And if you
well, yeah, and you become more fluent as you get older, right? So they've been talking about this since 1st grade. So by the time they get to 7th grade, they know what their scores, like they know that there are individual scores for each category. They know that there are different skills in those categories. So yeah, they if we start them younger, they have a better knowledge base for how to make improvements in those areas later when people aren't making them do it.
Well, I think I could ask you questions the rest of the night. Before I ask you any more questions, just great job. Really appreciate you guys doing this. I think some of the school districts that are going to be looking up Leader in Me, I'm sure it's on a website that they can find more information about it. And I bet if they were really nice, they could even call you sometime and ask you questions.
We are always
But,
happy to.
Tracy, like I said, I'm overwhelmed. I think it's so, if we could just get every kid to invest in themselves,
Yeah.
we wouldn't have 30% level reading and math.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it gives the kids a chance to feel, if you feel good about yourself, you're going to do better.
Mhm.
It's that simple. And if you don't feel bullied, and
Yeah.
that's the problem in every school district that I've been in, somebody will mention bullying. And you know who bullies the most? Kids that can't read. I just saw that in a study.
Huh.
Low level readers are the bigger bulliers.
Mhm.
And I guess it makes sense. If you're unsatisfied with yourself, you just reach out. And so your program really can solve lots of problems for kids. And that's what we're all trying to do here throughout the United States. I wish we had it for everybody. Tracy, I'm done. If you don't have any other questions, we can get done early, and all the people watching won't mind being done 10 minutes early.
Well, I have one question, and I think that you touched on it, Ward, and this was in just this last part of this conversation, but you, at the top of the hour, you were talking about teacher dissatisfaction, the number, one of the highest reasons for teachers saying that they would be happy with their job is if administrative support or the situations with behaviors with students in schools, that kind of thing, even more than salary. So have you all found that this Leader in Me has, I mean, this to me is kind of the elephant in the room. Have you all found that this has really helped to impact that self-discipline or instill a self-discipline, or what are you seeing as far as those behavioral issues that so many districts out there are having trouble with?
I can take that.
Go for it.
So I think that Wabaunsee is very, very unique because, as you know, we kind of shared, we've had multiple school closures. We've had to join two very different teams. And I will say that, like, at the end of the day, like, we all want what's best for kids. And we're always thinking, like, it's in conversations, like, okay, first things first, what do I need to do first? And we do have difficult conversations with each other.
Yeah.
I mean, it happens on the daily. And difficult conversations. I've had difficult conversations with families, peers, colleagues, principals, and even superintendents. And I think it's that Leader in Me, that, that habit of, I can't remember what habit it is, but
well, I think it's the foundation that our community really values hard work. They really value, that you do your part, that everybody has to rely on one another. Like we have to, there's no way to function in a vacuum. But then Leader in Me really, it's all about teaching it. It's hard for kids to take this abstract concept of kindness, and work towards that in a tangible way. But Leader in Me, first of all, encourages the kids to use data too. So it talks about how we can use something like kindness, and well, what are ways that we show kindness? How do you recognize kindness? And so then we talk about those things, and then ways for them to take what this idea of something is and then put it into practice and make it what's the word?
Accessible or
yeah. Because at the elementary level, some of that stuff is really hard to teach if you don't bring it to bring it down to where they can understand it, and in a way that they can understand it. Leader in Me has, and they've developed their early learning curriculum more in the last couple of years as well. So
yeah, and I think, like, we don't have, like, it is almost May, so, like, everybody is, like, ready for the end of the school year to be here. But the teachers all, like, they like it. I mean, they really love what they do and the community and the kiddos. So
yeah, I think
I got another question.
Yeah, go for it.
You ready for one more?
Yeah,
In the surveys that we're seeing a lot of times, as far as teacher dissatisfaction, it's, lack of administrative support, which I don't think is a problem for you guys, but every teacher will indicate that, what do we do with that one kid in the classroom that you cannot teach? Have you ever had that problem?
No.
You know, and we have to have inclusion and we have to.
Yeah.
But
Right.
do you have anything special that you're doing to help the teacher
Yeah.
teach the 20 kids that really want to learn and the one that, what do you do with the other one?
Yeah, we've gotten, I mean, we have really gotten creative this year.
Yeah. And I think our teachers, what we've done is we've supported them in a way that they feel empowered to be brave.
Mhm.
We have teachers this year who have really had to step out of their comfort zone in the kids that we're seeing, like
Mhm.
just like the kids you're describing, we
Mhm.
see, like, we have those kids. It's not
Mhm.
as if we don't have them here at Wabaunsee. We have kids that are challenging in that we don't know at first what to do,
Mhm.
right? But not only are they going to start, so they don't have those foundational things like all of our other kids do, like Bailey,
Right.
for example,
Mhm.
right? They haven't been in our district. They haven't grown up in our community. They haven't been raised by us. I wasn't raised here. But what it does do is that it does, because we teach it regularly, because it's a part of our culture, because it's in signage, in our language, and we all use the same language and the concepts. And our kids are so bought into it, even our littles, that I think with time, because it's taking time, but we're using Leader in Me to help supplement our behavior plans, to help supplement our positive behavior
Mhm.
supports, and also to help our teachers to use the self-regulation strategies and stuff that we encourage our kids to use all the
Mhm.
time. It can be really hard. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not a classroom teacher. I've never been a classroom teacher because my background's family studies and human services, but I would say that administrative support, first of all, Dr. Pitts, shout out.
Mhm.
Amazing superintendent, just very supportive, but also very pointed. You know, if he knows that what he wants to do for something or what he knows is best for our district to do, he says, this is what we're doing.
Mhm.
And I think our teachers have really embraced that the leadership is directive, because I don't know that all districts have that. But also that we are given the freedom to be vulnerable when it's appropriate, you know, when we can have conversations
Mhm.
amongst one another, but then to really go into it knowing that they have strategies, you know, and that we'll be there to support. We really empower our teachers to try to work with those kids, right?
Mhm.
Well, there's so many districts do not have, if there's 6 teachers in the grade school or 12 or what, you know, classroom teachers, they don't have any support people like you have.
Right.
And-
Yeah,
We're blessed.
we're very, very blessed that we have, you know, Miss Dunn here. You know, she's the counselor. I'm the mental health liaison. We have Annie Frank that's here 3 days a week.
For social
work.
Mhm.
So for a small district, we really do have a lot of behavior
And our paras,
support.
just a
And
shout out to our paras.
Yes. I was, to kind of end, wanted to share a success story for a little kindergartner. He came in, like, we knew he was coming. Just very high energy, hands-on,
Volatile
throwing
sometimes.
chairs, like, you've heard it. He has done it. And I was just talking to the case manager, and he now can do things independently.
Mhm.
And it's because he's learned those strategies to calm himself. He doesn't need his hand held down the hallway anymore, because he knows he can walk down the hallway independently. And he knows if he runs, he's going to be back to holding the hand again. So he knows. It's just been,
He's done, but
Yeah.
this isn't magic. It's not like some
right.
sprinkle dust that you
It
put
took a
on.
long time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're on year 3 working with him, but he has made such great improvement, and it just gives you hope for them for the future. You know,
Mhm.
our goal as educators is to help develop people that will eventually move us forward, right?
Mhm.
So
Well, I've seen Leader in Me's used in 6A schools and 1A schools. It's not
Yeah.
just you. I mean, are you guys 3A?
We're 2A.
2A. We're
2A?
pretty, yeah.
Yeah.
We have
Oh,
150.
but I've seen it being used in all 6 sizes Kansas schools. Many times just in elementary, hoping then it carries over to the high school.
They've done a lot of
But-
work in the last 5 to 10 years on their older curriculum.
Well, we're about to run out of time. So
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tracy, you want to close up and tell anything about coming up? So girls, you are special. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We appreciate that.
Thank you. And that was the perfect story to kind of pull all of this together. Thanks so much for sharing that. As we move forward, we have a lot of exciting webinars coming up and our fall summit. So in May 22nd, that is not on the fourth Wednesday of the month, but the third Wednesday of the month due to Labor Day and then Memorial Day week. We'll have our next webinar on creating an effective budget process to improve student outcomes. Everybody's looking at budgets this time of year. And then on June 26th, we'll have our new we have a webinar on new legislation and how it affects school districts. We will have some legislative experts here who will be talking about a lot of different pieces of legislation that have now you'll be seeing imposed or working in your school districts. And on the 31st of July, we'll have setting student achievement goals. And then into August, we'll talk about the new KSDE accreditation model that will be coming out. And then we have our summit, as Ward talked about, September 10th and 11th in Wichita. And hosting AJ Crable. He'll have a book signing on his new book, Rogue School Board Members Handbook. And Corey Brewer, as Ward mentioned, from Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. So we have a lot of exciting things coming up to support you. And thank you all for joining us tonight. And please let us know how we can support you.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, girls.
Take care. Have a great evening, everyone.
Goodbye.